Hey, John. Hey, William.
What's up? How you doing? Roosevelt, long time no see. William, hello.
Yeah. Hi, guys.
Oh man, yeah, it has been a long time, John. It has been a long time. We just a lot's been going on. We have um big plans in the next couple of months. I've been back and forth from Dallas to Shreveport, and
Yeah.
doing a lot of filming and doing a lot of reading and researching, and we just got a lot of plans going on. You got but what's really going on with you guys before we start jumping into our plans?
Well, I'm hot. I've been doing a lot of sweating, working outside in my yard, but I crave sunlight, so I keep going out there after spending a lot of time indoors. And busy with the Allendale Strong page, and a lot of good comments and good conversations going on that page. But been waiting for one of these podcasts to kick off again. William had a great idea about started a great conversation about where we could build the police station, which has its pros and cons. We got to put it somewhere because the one we got's crumbling, falling apart. And so, yeah, I'm excited to see all the discussions going on. I also went to NLCOG and asked them when they're going to show their work, because we hit them with basically a Freedom of Information Act request for the info. And they said that, in short, they said that their dog ate their homework. It was like, could we see this work that you've done, where you get these numbers from? They said, why do you want to see that? I said, well, the math is not really penciling out. It's preposterous to think that you're going to raise the gross domestic product annually in Shreveport 3%, give or take, by just building one 3.6 mile stretch of highway. So let's see your work. And they said, well, we don't have it. It's not in our possession. Yeah, so probably just a stalling tactic, but I'm looking forward to getting a hold of that information and sharing it with our consultant and checking to see if that all pencils out. But William, what's going on with you, man?
Well, I've been just doing all sorts of creating silly ideas, like that police station, which really isn't silly, but and doing
it's a good idea.
a presentation for of illustrating the parkway, what I've called the Pete Harris Parkway through Allendale, that would work more as a zipper between Ledbetter Heights and Allendale, rather than the full wall that is planned.
If you've made it this far in the video, I'm gonna ask you to become a Allendale Strong sponsor. Please go to our website at allendalestrong.org, where you can find our recent events, our podcast, and other things we have going on with Allendale Strong. Please, once again, go to our website, allendalestrong.org. Also, please check out our Facebook page at Friends of Allendale Strong. You can see our recent posts, also the events and photos and videos that we have collected over the years to talk about Allendale, Shreveport, and the surrounding areas. Now, back to our regularly scheduled program.
And just, sort of raising issues that other people aren't willing to talk to, especially in the design community, because they're too reliant on government contracts to maintain their business. So I've been saying stuff that should be said, but typically isn't. So I guess that means I am permanently retired instead of partially.
I mean, but you know, the police station thing, that's something to talk about. That's something. It's good to have different ideas. It's good to have different just ways of doing things, and you want to talk about those different ways, because if only a couple of people are getting their ideas out there, then we're not getting the full picture. So I think that your idea for the I thought it was a good idea, right? Um, and it's good to hear other people give, just like when I put a video out there, I like for other people to chop it up, right? Tell me why it's bad. You know, I think it's bad because of this, but tell me, and you may open me up to another way of fixing it or doing something. So I really like, what the idea that you came up with, and if anybody's listening to this, go to our Facebook page and look for the post that John put up. It was um, excellent illustration of where we can put the new police station instead of what was the idea, William, that they came up with?
Oh, well, yeah, Councilman Butcher decided that since some small city in Georgia took an old retail building and turned it into a police department, a police headquarters, that would be a great idea, since we have an empty Sears building, which is a pretty spectacular building built in, the late 1950s. But it's the policemen aren't for it. They want a new building, something designed specifically to be a police station and not some retrofitted building. So I did write a letter to the editor about this, and um, the good news from my perspective is that shortly after, Grayson Butcher backed off on promoting the Sears building, and it's like in my letter, I said, why don't we do something that we can all be proud of, and like give the policemen a building that at least has windows, which
I know, right?
a retail building has no windows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But what would we do with the old police building, which is crumbling? My thought was, wouldn't it be great if that could be converted into residential, because it's so close to our bus center of our bus station area. You could get anywhere in the city reasonably from there, and it also has all of those old retail buildings along Texas Avenue that could be rehabbed into retail again, restaurants and shops. So it seemed like it would be a great place to have people living between the bus station and revitalized retail area.
Yeah, no, I
Seems
think
like such a great use of that property that has been a government building my whole life. So what a change that could bring to that neighborhood.
that's a great idea, and the good thing about the police building a new police station is that it can be under construction while the police still occupy the building they're in, despite its bad condition. And then once they move into a new facility that has everything that they want and need, then the old property can be rezoned for mixed use and sold, and the city can get it off its hands.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it be nice? And I guess this is. I'm thinking. I just read Charles Marone's Strong Towns, and this whole idea of mixed use property is kind of in my head, right? Why can't we? I know y'all hear my doorbell in the background, but why can't we do something like a police station with housing around it, right? Who wouldn't love to stay close to the police station, right? Literally in the same area. I don't know. Is it? Do you think that that's a, you know, feasible thing? Do you think that the police would actually just take up that whole space?
Well, based on the feedback I've gotten in some of our discussions with the groups in Allendale and Lakeside, they don't like the police, and I'm sure there's good reason for that, but I'm not sure how much they'd appreciate, living in and among a police headquarters building.
And yet that's only a couple, 3 blocks from where it is now.
Mhm.
And it'd be right there by the interstate so that they could maybe even be more convenient for them to get to South Shreveport. There's a row of shotgun houses right behind the police station as it is now, and the people live there. But I get what they're saying. They don't want to live in a police state where they feel like they're always being watched, I suppose.
I mean, I can tell you exactly why we don't trust the police. I grew up in a time when police used to shake down the drug dealers, and if nobody know what shakedown mean, they didn't arrest them. They just went there and took their money and their drugs,
Mhm.
and spent their money and probably sold the drugs to another drug dealer, right?
Mhm.
Um, the me and John talked about this. The I guess the brothel, the old brothel that was down in Allendale, right? Or Ledbetter Heights. Um, and I can tell you plenty of stories of police that were paid off by local drug dealers. You know, so I understand why they don't trust them. I definitely do. So I'm not going to sit here and act like I don't know why. I've seen firsthand, face to face, the corruption that has permeated in a lot of the police stations around the nation. We can go all the way up to Chicago, to where there was a homicide detective for over 20 years. He made all these arrests, and now we're starting to find out that he framed the majority of his arrests. Right? They were not legit arrests. They were innocent people that they just picked off the street, beat them up, and charged them with the case. Right? So, um, I mean, I understand that aspect of it, and I think that the community policing is something that needs to be addressed immediately. But I think the problem with community policing is a problem that happens, that it pops up because we seem to generalize a lot of the police. We generalize because that's a good safety tactic. If I know that the last cop I had a bad experience with, then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna talk about how the next cop, I'm not gonna trust him, right? And that's just a safety tactic. It's it's real safety. You're thinking of, this cop is not looking out for my well-being. He's just seeing me as another drug dealer or another prostitute or somebody trying to shoplift. So I understand how they feel. So I'm not going to sit here and say I don't. Um, but I do believe that we need to start looking at, when we say because I remember talking about this, and I don't want to take it too far away from what we were talking about, William, about the police station. So I'm gonna try to keep it within that. The police station should be seen as something that is needed because as society, as a large city, we need police. Do we need to talk about the deeper problems in policing? Yes, we need to talk about community policing. We need to talk about the corruption. We need to talk about the behavior of some of the police. That needs to be talked about. That needs to be taken care of. But on the other end of it, public safety and policing, this new building they want to build, they're gonna build it, and the fiscal conservative in me wants to go the best route. Well, I want to get my best money for the bank. I want to get the most money for the bank, the best thing happening, but at the same time, I don't want to overspend on something that does not make any sense. I want to do it in a way that's going to save the city money. I want to do it in a way that's not going to bankrupt the city. I want to give the police a good place to work, but at the same time, I want to do it in a way that I know that in the end, we're not taking away from other services. We're not taking away from the next car that need to be replaced for the police. They got to redo their service weapons. I don't want to take away from that money. I want to do it physically conservative because I am a physical conservative. So I want to make sure that the money we're spending is going to last. We're not talking about building another police station in 20 years. I want this thing to last for 50. You see what I'm saying? So your idea, William, I think saves the money to where they can stay where they're at while we're building on an empty plot. We're not knocking down a building or retrofitting a building or having to fix up the park. This is an empty lot, and fiscally with an F, not physically, but I think that is the physical. I'm gonna mess that up. I think that's the way to do it within budget. Do you guys think I'm on the right path?
Yes, I would agree. And that's basically why I suggested it, because it did make sense in terms of, they don't have to tear down anything. It's already owned, the land is already owned by the city of Shreveport. It is the housing authority, but it is, city owned property. And to me, it's just 3 blocks from all the existing police facilities, including the jail. So I did, in the research I've been doing over the last week, I did notice that this corner, this edge of Allendale was either predominantly commercial or even industrial as you got closer to the railroad track that's been abandoned. And so, the residential portion of Allendale was always to the north and to the west of this particular location. And then they built a housing project in the 50s, I guess, on the site. And that's how it ended up in the housing authority's ownership. And then they tore that down to make room for the freeway, supposedly.
Yeah, and you're right, John. I think that the conversation needs to be had, and it's a great idea, it's a great idea, and I think that we can go back on and hash out some more of the conversation on the Facebook page. Go ahead.
I even see the opportunity for if they redesign the exits and entrances to I-49 and I-20 to accommodate the parkway, they could have an exit just for the police station, you know, that the police can come right into the police station and unload their passengers, or you know, it's just it could be designed so that they don't have to make any turns. It's just a straight shot on and off to get to the remote parts of the city.
Oh yeah, now the Parkway fits right into that. You're right.
Mhm.
Um, the Parkway, all right. Good, and your Parkway drawing, I think, John, you put that one up too, right? On the
Yeah,
Facebook page.
that's on our Facebook page, and it's fit right in with the timing on our participation in the CNU Highways to Boulevards project that has called together groups like Allendale Strong from all across the nation to work together, share information, and share resources to work together to move the nation from a highway through town to a boulevard like we used to do, and was better for the city to have a business boulevard through the city. So once again, the architect in the house was right on time with a great drawing that promotes that idea. And then Congress for the New Urbanism group that we participate in released a letter to Congress criticizing the lack of funding for highway removal. Went from many billions down to 10 billion and then down to only 1 billion for all the cities that want to remove their highways, from Syracuse, New York to Houston to Dallas, Seattle, Oregon. So it's still a great discussion to have, but I think most people may not want to live right next door to the police station, but they would like to live near a business boulevard where they could live, work, and play within walking distance of their house and have pedestrian safety. I also liked William's idea because Texas Avenue, I've worked on Texas Avenue for years in an old furniture store building that was converted into warehouse. But to me, it seems like that whole area could be converted back into retail with a residential facility, mixed income, mixed use residences where the police station is. That's a giant piece of property, and it's right across the street from the bus station and on the same street as all that old warehouse that could be converted back to restaurants and shops. So I think it could really help out a lot to do some things differently than the way we've been doing them.
Well, that also works in with all the efforts and considerable investment that Track has been doing in the Caddo, in the Shreveport Common area. You know, their goal is to promote a mixed use community, and then having that extend through Ledbetter Heights and over to this edge of Allendale is to, you know, there's just so much opportunity that people here refuse to see. And I am, even though I don't have the research or the expertise per se, I know that in the long term, Allendale will be worth more to the city as a tax base than if they build the freeway through it. And that there can be more money made in the long term by investing into a mixed use neighborhood of Allendale with a direct connection to downtown than by building a barrier between downtown and Allendale.
Yeah, and that's I'm actually that's actually next idea for my study guide series. You guys check that out on the YouTube page. I'm actually going to put out probably today or tomorrow the second study guide, episode, the second study guide episode, is I'm going to be talking about different articles that talked about the Atlanta freeway revolt, the Boston highway protest, and also the San Francisco highway protest. So you guys check that out. But after that, we're going to be talking about, and this could probably be our next podcast, you guys. We can talk about how Shreveport can turn the empty lots and dilapidated buildings in town into a tax base. How can we turn no taxes to property taxes, just by reinvesting in the city in different ways? So, that's a great idea, William, and that's something that I've been researching too into that. But to kind of pivot into our next topic, our next big thing that we're doing in Allendale is the lead belly bash. I'm gonna check that up. The lead belly bash. We're very excited about this. We're going to be celebrating the music and legacy of probably one of the most famous artists that coming out of the Northwest Louisiana area, probably the Arklatex as a whole. Huddy Leadbelly, whose music has been remastered and redone over and over since the beginning, right? John, you want to talk about it a little bit?
Well, I've been really wanting to see a Leadbelly festival celebrated here. That they celebrate his music all around the world. I grew up watching the midnight special on TV late at night, and rock and roll musicians played, and the theme song was a Huddy Leadbelly song, "Let the Midnight Special Shine its ever-loving light on you." So why not have a festival for Leadbelly here in where it all happened? And that's absolutely in that part of the city that is Allendale and Leadbetter. And the music is rich and historic. And I know of festivals honoring Leadbelly in New York and in London, but why not have one here and invite London and New York to come celebrate in Shreveport and see the sights? You can still see the Blue Goose where he played. You can go see his grave. It's just makes so much sense. Why hadn't somebody done it before? So thanks to everybody that's organizing that committee to get that going this September. I'm stoked.
The thing I want to point out about this is that the idea of this came from people in the neighborhood who weren't necessarily cooperating in the past. And they decided, we want to do something for us, something that means, we don't have a lot, is what they said. And we want to put together something that will mean something to the youth, to the entire neighborhood. And they crossed some, not necessarily boundaries, but they reached across and formed a different type of partnership and working relationship within the neighborhood in order to try to make this thing happen. So that's what really encourages me, is that you have a figure as famous as Leadbelly, and that's what people can gather around and say, this is our heritage. And yeah, I mean, he grew up in Mooringsport, what is 20 miles northwest of here, and he got his start playing in East Texas, Far East Texas, and in the Shreveport area. And and now, as John has pointed out, is recognized as an international influence on playing guitar in a particular blues vocal style that the Rolling Stones, of all people, are indebted to, and they acknowledge it.
Yeah, Robert Plant. I just learned Robert Plant's been here to visit his grave. Robert Plant, lead singer of Led Zeppelin and famous in his own right for his solo music. And he paid for the gravestone. It was an unmarked grave. And when Plant found it unmarked, he said, we got to do something about that and put up a grave marker there in Mooringsport. So guys, music is recognized around the world, and we should recognize it here. So I think it's great that this group is coming together. I'm excited to have been a part of some of the meetings that discuss how to make this event happen in September. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that works out, because it sounds like a lot of fun.
It's scheduled for September 25th, which is a Saturday, and there are basically two parts. We're going to meet at Swepco Park from 12 to 2, where we will, I guess, have a DJ, and we will have food and,
Jumpy house.
Whatever we can pull together that's fun and enjoying the park. And
Right.
then starting at 3, there's going to be a parade, a second line style parade through the neighborhood, and that will end up at the newly named Pamoja
Memorial.
Pamoja Heritage. It's not a park, it's a plaza.
Mm-hmm.
And Pamoja is an arts organization from the neighborhood. And so this is this park. It's a little amphitheater. It's downtown, or it's in Ledbetter Heights, but it's right behind First Methodist Church. And then from 4 to 6, we will have musical performances with our headliner, Betty Lewis, and I guess she may bring her executives with her, but she is committed to performing. So if it all goes together, it's really going to be a great new experience for the city.
Who's that behind you, William? Looks like the Queen of Shame.
Yeah, that's Rona. Sorry. She decided to get in the picture.
Hey man, hey, we invite all. Well, he's about to lick himself, so that's all good. But I'm really looking forward to it. I kind of ran up on the idea of Leadbelly from the stories of my grandmother. She listened to a lot of blues growing up. We had I know a lot of people know about this. I can't remember what it was actually called, but it was pretty much the record player, that huge record player with the humongous 2 speakers, and you will open it up. It's like, I forgot what they called it, but you open it up, and she had 2 turntables there, and she had, like, underneath it was her just rack of records, blues records, and the 2 huge speakers, and she used to sit there and play her blues all day. And I remember my mom explaining to me, that song is a remake of a guy who pretty much lived in the bottom, St. Paul's Bottoms, the Ledbetter Heights area. And when I got older, I was hearing music from different people, most notably Kurt Cobain. What was Kurt Cobain's group, John? Dang, I know that's my generation.
Yeah, you young people had a lot of funny things going on.
That's Nirvana.
Nirvana, yeah, Foam. Nirvana.
That's your young people's music, William. You young guys. No, You're actually not that young, but you have a better memory than I
We're the
do.
same age, John.
Yeah, I know. I just feel older now after my accident. But yeah, dude, Leadbelly's music runs throughout all of rock and roll history, and of course the blues. So what a great legacy he left us here. We should be celebrating him annually.
Yeah, they redid Where Did You Sleep Last Night? Nirvana redid that. And I remember hearing it and I was like, hold on, I heard that song before. My grandmother's old blues song. And it just, you already know me. I jump in the rabbit holes. You won't find me for like 3 days and I'll come back feeling like an expert. But that's just me. But yeah, September 25th, Spokeo Park, Promosia Memorial Plaza. We're going to be celebrating the life and legacy of Huddy Leadbelly in the area where he frequented. And I'm looking forward to it. We're going to put more information out on the Facebook page, on AllendaleStrong.org, and in other places that social media, Twitter, and also the Instagram. But I'm looking forward to that, to coming back and celebrating with you guys. The next topic at hand is back to William. William, you're doing a great project where you're going through the history of some of the nice buildings and down in the Allendale area, Leadbelly Heights area, and on the downtown area. Can you talk about that?
Well, I wanted to really find out what was there, because a lot of stuff is gone. And so I started looking at some of the history of some of the churches, and I found a great resource. The National Library, the Library of Congress, has the Sanborn maps of Shreveport that you can access online, and actually download files that show the buildings that were in place in these blocks that are now gone, or the ones that are still there. And so I've been sort of compiling an understanding and a record of what was first lost when they built I-20. And it, it was a primarily commercial area here in this part of Allendale. But one thing I did learn, there's a ballpark behind Galilee Baptist Church, and that's where they just finished this community mural. Well, that was where they played the Negro leagues, the Negro baseball leagues that were centered out of Texas. Shreveport fielded a number of teams, and that was their park there in Allendale. And so what was lost with I-20 was a connection of the neighborhood to US Highway 80, which was the main east-west route connecting Shreveport to Atlanta and connecting Shreveport to Dallas. And so you would come into town on Highway 80, and then you drive up a few blocks to go to the baseball game, and then go into downtown. And it was a really vibrant neighborhood, particularly in the 1930s. And so I'm looking at a way to combine current aerial footage and maybe do an overlay of some of the Sanborn fire maps onto those blocks that to show the texture, the fabric of the neighborhood as it once was. And so that's one thing I found out. And I've located a photograph of one of the baseball teams posing after a victory, and The other interesting thing that this really opens up a lot, I believe, that is not known about Shreveport. There was a young Catholic priest who grew up down in South Louisiana. His name was Joseph Gramillion. He was known as Father Joe. He grew up, his family had a farm. I take it he was from a pretty well-off family, but he observed the terrible plight of black sharecroppers down south. And this influenced him enough that he devoted the rest of his life to social justice. His first assignment as a priest was St. Joseph's Church in Allendale, which is directly in the path of the inner city connector and will be the only church that will be completely wiped out by the routes that they're proposing. And he was a young priest, and he began organizing a way to reconcile the differences between the black community and the white community. And this is in the late 1940s. And so he actually, because at that time, under the terrible Jim Crow laws that existed here, blacks and whites could not even meet together in a space that, you know, that it was illegal. And so through the church, he was able to get black church members and white church members to sit together and talk to see if there was a way to integrate any of the churches. And this was also the time when the Catholic Church was putting together this Friendship House movement, which originated in Chicago. And the first one was in Chicago, then there was one in New York, and they opened up one in Portland. Again, this is, you know, late, I think the one in Chicago opened up in the 30s. The fourth and only other Friendship House that the Catholic Church ran was in Shreveport, Louisiana. And Father Joe was behind it. And they brought down people from Chicago and I think someone from New York to start it. And that house is on Milam Street. And it's still there. I looked it up. It's still there. This house that served as the Friendship House is still in place. And it was able to operate for only 2.5 years before the Shreveport police began harassing the white volunteers and basically sent them packing because they were more or less afraid for their lives.
Sound like outside agitators.
Well, damn right.
Yeah. Agitating for something nice to happen. And so, where was the church? Is that where Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament is now? It's still.
Yes, yeah. St. Joe's Church is there. Our Blessed Lady of the Sacrament, I guess, is the school that's associated with it. It's all.
Well, it's a church now, yeah, but there was a school there. I have friends that had attended, but gosh, that church has so much history. You know, there was a nun who later was beatified as a saint now, who gave the land for the church for the folks that were African Americans who had moved from Natchitoches up here. And at that time, my understanding is the bishop wouldn't recognize them as a congregation. And so the nun gave them the property so that there would always be a church for African American Catholics there. And she's now recognized as a saint. It's quite a historic place. Hard to believe they would build a highway over that, especially when you consider the 1966 Transportation Act of Congress forbids building through history, but William knows about that. It's such a historic neighborhood.
So I got to get back
Impossible to
to
believe.
I got to get back to this Father Joe figure because it gets better.
Wow.
He, so we're talking early civil rights action with white Northerners coming down and trying to make things better for blacks. So this is easily 12 to 14 years before the Freedom Riders of the civil rights movement in the 1960s. So Father Joe stuck around here for I guess until 1957, and then he began a career with the Catholic Church and moved to Notre Dame, which is where his archives are, and he traveled the world and basically was he has some special title given him by the Pope. He started an international social justice organization within the Catholic Church. So this guy who is then, once he died, chose to be buried in St. Joseph's Cemetery in Shreveport, even though he was only here for maybe 10 years of his career. And, so he felt that his roots were here and he was devoted to this place, and his work here meant enough because I guess he recognized that it was the beginning of what became a really important global career in terms of civil rights and social justice within the Catholic Church.
Wow. Wow. Oh, wow. Man. All right. So, I'm a history buff. I'm floored. I learn something new all the time, especially talking to you, William. I'm man. So what? All right. So you guys send me that information. Well, so just send me a couple of links because the information is going to be on our site. Am I correct?
Yes.
AllendaleStrong.org. So if you could just send me, I guess, a couple of links to put on the website. I mean, not put on the YouTube page. But if you want to learn the full story and see the full map in this, see the full map when William is finished, please go to our website, AllendaleStrong.org. But that's just that's just another story that of Allendale. The history of Allendale, the history of Shreveport that happened in the Allendale area. Just another story that shows you that what we are taught in school is not even 0.00.1% of the history that is out there just in the corner of Allendale and Ledbetter Heights. And it's just fascinating to hear it. You put me in connection with Miss Susan Keith that's going to be on the podcast, and she's going to talk about the immigrant population of the Allendale area and how that immigrant population was a part of Allendale all the way up until the time I can remember in the 80s and 90s. So we're going to talk about that, on the show. But there's just another story that shows you that the historical ramification of what happened if they try to bring that interstate through and knock down all of that history that's associated with the area. It's not even, it's not even worth it. Some cities will beg to have a history with just what Allendale has, and they're trying to run it through again. So that's wow. Anything else you got for us, William?
No, I was intrigued by the image of your grandma and her old Victrola. My grandfather had one, but it only had one player. So your grandma was in there doing the wiki thing
Yeah,
with those two turntables.
yeah.
No, hey, we
The
did
microphone.
and tore up those records, and she tore up our butts with the, you know, she whooped us with that vacuum cord. Every time we'd go in there and try to scratch up, you know, and she'd come out there with that vacuum cord and beat us down.
Yeah, my grandmother had a Victrola, but it only had one big horn speaker, and everything sounded old on it. But she used to pull it out every now and then and get it cranked up and going.
Man, that that, and it was right in the middle. As soon as you walked in our house, it was right there. And it was, you know, Allendale, and especially the house we stayed, it wasn't a big house. And it was right there in the hallway. So she used to crank that thing up and they can hear it, man, probably damn near the downtown. So, you know, those some good times. But, you know, good times always come to an end and we don't ever want to talk about it. But I think guys, we've had another great podcast, another great episode. Any last words from you, John?
No, everybody needs to stay in touch through Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and find out the latest. And that just reminds me that we've got so much more ahead of us. I'm super excited about the fall and the cooler weather too, getting outdoors and enjoying everything. But yeah, come to our festival in September at Swepco Park in Pomoja. And I'm looking forward to more of these podcasts getting going again. We need Deacon Charles Thomas to come on and tell us more about the history of his church there. Our Lady is a historic site.
Definitely.
Thanks for having me. This has been great.
Yeah, we definitely got to have Deacon Charles Thomas on. Hey, you know something? Make that phone call next week. Make sure it happens. Any last words there, William?
No, just stay safe and healthy during these dog days because it sure is hot.
Yeah, it's
hot.
hot.
Yeah. Oh, it's getting back into the 90s here in Georgia. We had a good streak of 80 degrees for like a week. So it's supposed to get back up to 90 soon. So yeah. I know you guys probably hit 90 and you're like, oh
no, we're it feels like 109 today.
Yeah. Yeah, the feels like is, you don't even want to look. You know what it feels like when you feel it.
What they say, the air you can wear.
Yeah, that's right. You can kind of lean against the humidity and it holds you up.
Well, I'm just happy you guys just stay in the AC, man. Just stay in the AC.
That's the thing, though. It's that temperature where everybody's AC starts popping, man. It's like a AC repairman's dream this time of year. Everybody's posting, my air just went out. Oh no!
Well, just be happy you don't stay in Texas.
I know. I'm just glad. I'm so grateful to be alive. To be alive in the air conditioning is a real blessing right now. But yeah.
Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me today. I am so happy. I learned something today, and I got to laugh with John. So, you know, this is a great weekend. But thank you, everybody that's watching on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube. It helps with the algorithm. It helps to get the word out to other people.
Also, like and share.
Yeah, like and share. Make sure you listen to us on the podcast, some place that you listen to your favorite podcast also. Also, make sure you go check out AllendaleStrong.org. AllendaleStrong.org is where you find all the events, all the links, all the things that we're talking about and doing in the Allendale Strong community. So make sure you go there. Also, make sure you go to our Facebook page, Twitter, Instagram, and anywhere else that you may catch us on the social medias. Once again, have a great day and make sure that you stay in the AC, especially if you're in the Louisiana or South right now. So love you guys and God bless.
So long.